Let's do it. I'm so happy to be here. Me and Jacob had talked we randomly call each other. He is actually the last friend I made in Boulder. And also now one of the closest friends I have in Boulder. And I just moved from there a couple months ago, or maybe 6 months ago. It is January 1st of 2022. Here we are. And we had talked early in November, I think, or late in November around Thanksgiving. And I just had this huge urge to call him. And then we had this conversation. And then it was like, dude, I'm feeling like we should do a YouTube video. And he was like, yeah. And then that kind of marinated and the seed sprouted. And here we are.
Here we are. It's amazing.
Yeah. We have not planned anything with this. We just hit record and let's go. I'm excited to see what unfolds and excited to learn so that we can, I was thinking, actually one thing came up because today we had talked on the phone and I was thinking, we had kind of said to each other, let's see if anything comes up. And I forgot to tell you that something did come up. The thing that came up was for us to have quarterly or monthly check-ins. I don't know, nothing no pressure, but that did come up. And I was like, okay.
We'll see how that goes. Huh.
Yeah.
What I'm feeling to start this off as what I mentioned to you is to do a little incantation, a little prayer.
Yeah.
And we can see what emerges from that.
I would love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to say a little prayer for us, for this space, and then maybe you can add some words in if that feels good for you.
That'd be great. Yeah, my cat's adding some words right now.
We need the blessings of your cat too.
Yeah. Okay.
So first, thank you to Deg for coming here, gathering and igniting this idea within our hearts so that we could spread the fire that we want to share with each other and to others out into this world. Thank you to our ancestors, the ones of this land that we rest upon, the natives, as well as our own lineages, what they have offered to us through the generations of familial gatherings and communions with one another. Thank you for our own guides and spirits and their prayers on our journeys and the little energies that push us back and forth within this cosmos, telling us to go here, or sharing insights there. Helping us as we find our way deeper into our own essence. And thank you for our own selves, that we have the ability to move in these bodies that act, and these words that speak, and these brains that think, and the breathing that happens, and all the magnificent little things that just manifest without us having to do a single thing. Gratitude to that. Gratitude to our own bodies for making decisions and for strength. And lastly, to the wisdom teachers who have passed down books and insights and emptiness and knowledge and all the things in between that continue to inspire us and teach us and make this connection possible. One asset of making this connection possible. So thank you to them. And may this nourish ourselves, may it nourish our spirits, and may it nourish and serve anyone who listens to what may come through tonight. Aho, thank you, amen.
Oh, thank you. And I too just give reverence to the spirit that brought us together for whatever reason, for reasons maybe beyond our understanding. And in acknowledgement and in reverence to that, I ask that that spirit talk through us, that conversations may be had, not only for the benefit of Jacob and I, but for, like Jacob said, all who are listening, all who may listen. May the vibrations and the love that we have make ripples throughout the universe. May we continue to be a force of love, a force of light, a force of gratitude. Thank you to all the ancestors that came before us. Thank you for the hardships that they have endured and for their diligence in their creations, their diligence for communication and community so that we can gather through this online platform. And if it weren't them, it would be a lot harder to communicate. So thank you for those who have put in that work, that we get to just inherit these technologies and just give reference to that, honor, thanks. And I bow to you, Jacob, to spirit, to myself, to all who are listening. I bow to you. Thank you. May what needs to be said be said. So it is. I hope.
Thank you. And how about we bow in? Let's bow in.
Yeah. Thank you, Lena. My kitty.
Thank you, Lena.
He's right there. Saying hi. Okay, that wasn't cool. I've been saying to my partner, almost as a joke, but almost not really as a joke, where, when we say amen, I've been saying a woman.
Amen. A woman. I love that.
A woman. A woman.
Yeah. A woman. A woman. And the amen, like across all these different cultures, there's a phrase that people say to declare, like, in truth, or I see you. And a lot of them have to do with that sound. Like in the Judaic Christian traditions, it's amen. That same root is aho in the native cultures to America, aho. Then you go to the Hindu worlds and it's the aum, the universal sound. And then you go into other dialects, like the word omen, like there's a essence that comes through these words, the syllables that give the word meaning, which I think is really interesting.
Very fascinating. And not only is it's just so fascinating that so much of it relates to each other. And we've been giving a history of Earth that we've just been told.
Yeah.
I don't think that we'll ever fully know the history of Earth, the history of language, because its history is told by the victors of history and the victors of those of wars, because unfortunately our whole history is based on wars, and until wars stop is when we will have to decipher truths out of history. Once wars stop and we put down that, then we have nothing to hide, but to piggyback off of the literary things, to be in David Wolf. I'm a huge fan of David Wolf, and I'm in his inner circle calls, and we had gotten on a conversation about being literate and how most of our ancestors were, at least in history that we're told, probably not literate.
Hmm.
And to be literate, to read and to write and to talk itself is such a powerful thing. And to be able to share intent through words and through writing is just, it's just fascinating to ponder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to be able to, you know, journal this whole book. I just finished writing every single page in this whole book, in this whole journal. And how much, whether I know it or not, that journal, the things I've wrote have affected me, the intentions that I've set, the goals that I've set.
You know, and my body just there, it wanted to go like, ah, yeah. And even that, man. It's like relief. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Huh. And I feel I hear a lot what in a statement that I used to say is like, oh, language is limiting, right? And it is. But it isn't. It's limiting because it can't fully express one asset, but it's not intended to, right? And it's quite the opposite. Like, it's full of capabilities, full of possibilities.
Yeah.
That can be like mined out of this language that we've created. And then you go to every language and there's a new jewel there.
A new perspective, a whole new understanding.
Yeah.
I have Mexican blood in me, and when I speak Spanish, I don't speak it fluently yet. I will. But even when I'm speaking that language, I feel it's almost like a whole new personality comes out that has been locked up. Because when I start speaking Spanish, it's like, oh, it's this natural, it's just like this interesting thing that flows out of me that I feel like, you know, there's freedom to express certain things in Spanish that you can't necessarily, it doesn't feel culturally freedom to express. Even on nothing in particular is coming to me, but subtly it feels that way.
Mm-hmm. I feel maybe part of the reason that happens with other languages is it's more indigenous. It's based through like communication of person with land. And so the land is kind of, not really kind of, is sharing the essence of the word. And therefore, so like in Spanish, every, like El Sol and La Luna, like these, it's masculine and feminine, which is a whole nother world, but they give personality and almost a consciousness to what we would consider like inanimate objects.
Right. Wow.
And things like Hebrew, from my very, very limited understanding, a lot of people say Hebrew was developed from fire. And it gave birth to a language. So these symbols are actual archetypes for the human experience.
Wow.
And so they're building blocks to delve deeper into our own essence, not just to communicate, but to communicate with spirit and whatever that means to every person.
That is powerful. And, you know, I have always known the Hebrew language to be sacred, but the way that you put it right there was really well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really potent and precise. And I studied Hebrew a little bit as well, and to be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating, one, that it was a dead language that got resurrected.
Right.
I mean, like out of languages that get resurrected, that's just phenomenal to me that an ancient language came back. And then two, the whole vowel situation in Hebrew is really funny. At first there was no vowels, then they added vowels to make it easier, then they kind of took it away again. And now it's kind of like some is, some isn't, from my understanding. And what I learned about Hebrew is that there was one or two syllables in each, or consonants in each word, at the base.
Uh-huh.
And then you would tack on more consonants to come up with a word. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I'm way out of study to be able to come up with a name or to come up with an example. But it was like you could know what the word was by just knowing what these symbols were at the beginning. And you could kind of guess. And then another thing is like intent, how big intent is for Hebrew language, and how much you have to know what they're saying to know what they're saying to some degree, you know, and that's just the surface, you know, not even diving deeper into the Kabbalah and to the magic of the Bible in the Old Testament and how that all intertwines. And I just wanted to draw one correlation to what you were saying about the land. And I went and studied with the Shipibo people for, you know, a couple months. Their language was totally different from Hebrew, but the way that they approached it, it felt resonant. And it was really fascinating to me because it just felt like it's all about intention. It's all about what you put into the words. And the Shipibo people, they learned, you know, that I asked them, where did your language come from? And they're like, the plants taught us. Yeah. They speak the language of the plants. Right. And if you know how to speak that language, then you can sing their songs and they'll respond. And that is fascinating, especially when we're diving into ayahuasca ceremonies and in these types of realms. It's like they learned their language from ceremony and downloaded it, applied it, and now speak it. And it's also interesting because ceremony Shipibo is completely different than social Shipibo. They've separated the two. And so there's not really any overlap that makes sense, at least from my experience. I want to, of course, leave room that could not be the case. But from my experience, when I went, you know, they would point out a word that meant like cleaning, but they would be like, social, this means garbage bag. You're like, what? I guess cleaning and garbage bag, you can take out the... I guess that's true, yeah. I don't know if that was the exact example, but yeah.
It reminds me of, I was in a class a few years ago, maybe some time ago, and it was on deep ecology, which is like this Norwegian guy named Arne Næss created this philosophical platform for coming into greater contact with the natural world, and in the 1900s. And we had a guest speaker in the class who reigned from the Mohawk Nation, and I believe his name was Ian. And Ian, the Mohawk Nation is from upstate New York, from what I believe, that territory, what is now upstate New York. And he was suggesting and proposing that an ideal that he was taught and what came from the native cultures, the Native Americans, was exactly what you're saying, is the language wasn't just like, oh, we're going to say that that's a tree and that's a bench and that's wood. Like No, the spirit of the lands and the spirit of these different plants informed the language. They told them through communication, this is what I want to be called. And therefore, in that word, it speaks to the full capacities and full energies of the plant and of the culture. And then he went on to suggest that like the destruction of an indigenous community is the destruction of the ecosystem, because when the indigenous community dies, the language dies. When the language dies, that is the spirit of the land. So the language is the spirit of the land, and therefore it gets killed in the process. So also what comes to mind when you share these insights from the Shipibo is when I was also in different areas of the Amazon in Peru, I lived for some time with different families within the Machigangan community. And one of my friends and mentors down there, he was sharing with me how the word not just implies a spirit, but the word tells the entire properties of the plant. So if stinging nettle is called, what we know stinging nettle is called kisa kisa, the root syllables, the root sounds, the double entendre of saying the word twice, it informs all capacities of this plant. And it will tell you everything you need to know just by the word kisa kisa.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, it's such a rich, such a gift, such a jewel, a gem,
Mm-hmm.
to be taught those things, to be reminded of those things, and to be the torchbearers of bringing that back into culture.
Yeah. Amen.
Unfortunately, we're not going to have a new language in our lifetime that's going to be as popular as English. But as 20 and 30-year-olds, we could play a big impact into changing our words as a society. And that's something I never think about, actually, is how do we change our words? How do we change our mindset? And it's very difficult, because in the English language, I feel oftentimes almost like it's put against me. I feel almost like the English language is casting negative spells on me. Yeah. During the week, you are weak. On the weekend, you're weakened.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait. What do you mean by, whoa. We get Sunday. That's like the best day ever, because it's sun and day. It's like the only thing related to nature. But I'm like,
what's sun? And the word sun comes from the root, like it's a biblical relationship.
Yeah, it is. But that also got taken as the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was on Saturday night.
Right.
And so it's perverted in some ways. And I just feel like I almost have a little bit of animosity toward the Phoenicians, because those are the people, they were masters at language and a business, and they knew how, it's like lawyer talk, it's like legalese.
Sure.
They know how to spell cast you into creating what they want, and it's beautiful. But some of those things have carried over into our modern day language, and I feel just, it's interesting. It's also interesting, our culture, how we're like sick, or like dirty, or like, just different
things. That's fire.
What's that?
That's fire.
Fire, bro. And that's lit. Like, awesome. Cool. We're getting some nature in there. I was telling my partner, I want to start saying that's light. That's light. I looked up the definition of light the other day, because I'm like, okay, my body, I want it to be light. And I was like, I have the lightest body ever, right? Not in a competition toward others, but when I say I have the lightest body ever, or the best, I have the lightest body in the best way ever. When I say best, this is me. This is again David Wolf teaching me how to write intentions and how to use the English language. When I say best, it is not being better than anybody. It's not a comparison. It's best as in best I can be, best that allows God spirit to be like, all right, you want the best? This is the best. When you say ever, it's like adding that. It's like best ever, the best for God. Like, you take control, God. It's not, So when I say I'm the lightest in the best way ever, yeah, it's just like, and I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And I looked it up. There's 27 different ways that you can use light. 27. And I was blown away, bro. Because I was thinking, I need to is there a different way to spell light that I'm just missing? I'm like, there's lightweight, but how do I use it as an adjective? I'm light. But then there's different ways to use light. I could say this room is light. My body is light. Those are two totally different things. But I just find the word light to be a really fascinating word. I want that to catch on in culture. That's light. That's light. Or if it gets really dark and dense and dirty, it's like light. We just speak light into the situation. Light, 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 light. If things get overwhelmed, light, 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 And it has a vibe. I feel like it can catch. Like light, 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 Thanks for listening to that.
Yeah. Thank you. Just absorbing all that.
Yeah. To continue off of that, to what we were going back, rounding it back. I really pray that we can incorporate that into our culture, into our global culture. These sounds, this information, to become more literate, to be able to understand deeper, to love deeper, to understand ourselves deeper. And that's one thing that I find myself to be quiet. The emotion of envious isn't there, but it's like envy, but it's not true. It's not envy taken to the point of affecting me. Sure. But envy of the English, of the Hindu language, because they have cosmic understanding inculcated into their culture through the language. And to even begin to translate Hindi into English is almost an injustice in some ways, because there's how can you describe, they're like, how do we describe that? Sure. You don't talk like that.
Exactly. And then even before Hindi, you have Sanskrit, of course, and the Sanskrit is termed the language of the gods. And it's
yes,
a whole one word can describe what we can't describe in paragraphs.
Yeah, right.
And there's such a what's the word? It's a tangible vitality about the presence of the word that is sought after and missed, I think, in the English language.
Yeah. And it can really only be absorbed through delving into the culture.
Yeah.
or to be around the teachers, to absorb it, to
Right.
it's a transmission.
Transmissions.
Yep.
And that's a big thing, that a big missing part in this Western culture. Like, what is a transmission? To have a lineage, to have a teacher or someone that you respect. Like, we are dispelled by learning about what a transmission is, or a guru. Dispelled by the term guru. And when I say dispelled, I mean it was almost like we put a spell onto ourselves. So I don't know if the word dispel is the right word. It kind of just came through. But we accredit all these gurus, these famous gurus, teachers, with a lot of the negative and adverse things that they have committed, or the manipulation or the control or the conceit or the in any ways, physical, verbal, most of the time sexual, with their power that they have as this revered teacher. And because they're this revered teacher and they have all these followers, and then 20 years later, there's all these exploitations out against them. And so, and that's like the guru within the Hindu world, but I've also seen it with lamas within Buddhist traditions and many other cultures, priests, and Christian priests. And a part of that is I don't feel we respect our elders anymore. Like, there's more of a rebellious culture, which I think is necessary for the evolution of where we're headed. But there seems to be a consensus that, like, I can do it myself, and I need to do it, and you need to be this strong being, and teachers are just these other people. And therefore, any transmission of a guru or of a teacher or of a, and let me say really fast, like the word guru, because it could trigger a lot of people, even, is guru. Guru means dispeller of evil, dispeller of darkness. It's the one who offers you the opportunity to dispel your own darkness, and dispelling your own darkness by opening up to it, right? And as a result of not having people that we can look up to and mentors, I feel we're at a big disprivilege. We're elderless. And so I think a lot of these Western people, take you and I, have had to go to other cultures to receive and retrieve some of that, like, transmission passed down a lineage. And the transmission that passed down the lineage, it's not just like, I'm enlightened, my teacher's enlightenment, I'm going to sit under my teacher and I'm going to be enlightened. There's an essence of that. And in, like, Hindu cultures, that's called Shaktipat. It's like the presence, the primordial presence of the teacher's like third eye coming into the students, and the student receiving that true jewel. And but what does this teacher do? What does this teacher do for us? And what does this transmission offer us? Like, what can we reap from a transmission? Well, the first thing that comes, like, support. We have this support, this unconditional love of support from the people who have gone through this work themselves on their own journey. And so, as they've done it before, they can almost lay their own confidence behind us, supporting us as a foundation. Oh, you're lost? It's okay, we're here. But there's also another side of it, is like immense power. Wow, what can stream through your body from a teacher and his teacher and her teacher, right? What comes through is a force that lets you act in the same way, that leads you onto a path to act in a similar manner. Doesn't mean you're going to be like the same person, because the world is changing. So you have to assimilate to the cultural norms. And a lot of these cultures that we're speaking to, without a lineage, without a teacher, they consider you just plain out lost. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
They say awakening, you need teacher, period.
Yeah.
So one of the aspects. So it's that's what comes to mind when you say, and through me in my heart when you say transmission, because it is a transmission.
So beautiful. Well said. I had chills probably 3 times while you were talking in that. So thank you. And yeah, the term guru in Western culture has now become related to business, of course.
Right.
Health coach guru, the food guru, the business guru, the guru, entrepreneur guru. It's just teacher in Western culture. And it's been westernized. And it's sad. But in one hand, it's relatable in that I've been reading a few business books myself, and all of them across the board are like, in order for you to learn about negotiations, in order for you to learn about business, in order for you to learn how to be an entrepreneur, you have to be with an entrepreneur.
Right.
So we get it in that way. Oh, you want to learn how to make money? Go spend time with somebody who makes money. And it's transmission. And I can tell you this, I've transmitted a lot from Corey. Corey, for those who are watching, he's the owner of a restaurant that I used to manage, and both Jacob and I have worked at. When I moved to Texas, I was flabbergasted with how much I received from him, just on business, but also personally, because he was my best friend. He was my best friend during my time in Boulder. And so in that way, we can understand that, and through business, because that's how our culture, everything revolves around that, capitalism. And to touch on, to further elaborate, man, the whole topic of a guru for me has been one of so much just history. If it was a relationship status, it would say it's complicated. Because I can't tell you how much I have sought and desired after a teacher to just eradicate me. Hey, take me, come on. Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to go give my life to this enlightenment.
Yep.
And I'm ready to do that. And life again and again is like, get your ass back in America. Like, it's just like, almost like, okay, you've learned what you learned, like, be gone, And then there's been some times where I had the opportunity to stay. It's opened up. I can stay in the jungle and learn from these teachers. But then there's this, like, with just certainty from God, from spirit, that I need to go back. And it's like, I'm leaving my dream to stay in the jungle? What? And, maybe I can tie in that story as I further explain.
Sure.
But I have sought so much. And it started first with Muji. He's a very popular teacher. Then, it's just gone around in circles. It's gone to Krishna. It's gone to gurus that follow the Hare Krishna. It's gone to Buddhist gurus. It's gone.
Christ.
My journey of finding spiritual teachers has been ongoing so deeply. Very first, it was Christ.
Mm.
Christ brought me to light. He was my guru, when I had this phenomenal experience. Kundalini awakening, it felt like, when I was 15, and it was through Christ consciousness. Or whatever it was, I want to say that it was Christ consciousness. And then I had this powerful experience, and then the church swooped in and they're like, okay, this is what happened. You got saved just now. Now you're not going to hell. You're going to heaven. You got saved. You're God's chosen. And now it's your mission to spread this to the world. And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. And I became this like Bible thumping Christian because I had the most powerful experience that ever happened to me. Almost not intentionally, but almost get stolen from me and incepted on what that was.
Mm.
Because it had to fit within the doctrine of the church that I was attending.
Mm-hmm.
Had to fit within those parameters. And I was young, so you pack a powerful experience with this doctrine that they have like ready to go. It's like, I don't know, it's like, of course, like, like I'm here to be a Bible Christian thumper, like, and then I started diving into Hebrew and Greek, and I started learning about, oh, this isn't as black and white as we would like it to be.
Yeah.
This isn't fundamental Christianity. This is deep. Even heaven and hell, that was my big thing. Hell isn't even mentioned in the Old Testament. Sheol is. There's other terms that are interpreted as hell, but when you go look at the Hebrew, it's not hell, as in modern Christians believe. So how come that's not mentioned? And then Jesus hop on the scene and he's like, you're going to hell. He doesn't say that, but hell, there's 3 terms in the New Testament for hell. And one of them is Hades, that Jesus is using as a reference. He's like, if you're going to do this, then you are like going into the lake of Hades.
Right.
Then we have one that was translated as hell as it being a dump of the city. And it was like literally the city dump, right? And Jesus says, you might as well go there. You're pretty much going to be there. I forgot the exact, again, I'm out of study, but I remember these things enough to be, because they were impactful. And I forgot what the third hell was that it got translated, but so to keep on moving, and to also correlate with what you were saying, now I'm like lost. I am lost. What do I do? Where do I go to? My parents don't understand me. My friends don't understand me. My church literally abandoned me, said, we will never give you a reference, leave. I found another church and they're like more chill,
Right.
but it's still like, we can't really help you. You just got to have faith. And it's like, okay, and then it's like, on to India I go.
Right.
On to Peru I go to find this. And, the plant medicines, ayahuasca, she's like, hey, calm down. Calm down. Like, you have a mind, you have a body, and you have a spirit. That's like the Trinity, right? You know this. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
First thing she teaches me, she's like, and she very directly shows me, like, this is your mind, this is your body, this is your spirit, now aligning those. And then just the healings that I've had through that plant medicine I just bow in gratitude and thanks, because it healed me. I'm healed. I got healed so deeply. And and thank you for the space. This is just coming out, but then I found the Shipibo people. They believe in this tree named Noyarao, and Noyarao is like what we would term an enlightened tree, right? A guru tree, but they don't have that same mindset.
Sure.
But that's the only way that we can really translate it and talk about it. And this tree, they know that her spirit dwells into this tree is that when her spirit dwells into it, because it's not every tree. It's like ayahuasca is in every single ayahuasca vine. Her spirit is in there. This spirit is like a separate spirit that enters into a tree, and or a tree that attains, I don't know, the spirit of Noyarao. I don't really know how to describe it, but how they know that this tree is embodied with Noyarao is when her leaves fall off on the ground. They're bioluminescent. And they're telling us this in Peru, like the debriefing. They're like, you think you're here for ayahuasca, you're actually here for this tree. And we can't really talk about this tree yet, but you're here for this tree. And we're all like, what? We were all kind of confused. And I was like, okay, a glowing tree. I'll believe it when I see it. We get to the jungle. We drink her bark water to begin the dieta, to begin our relationship with her. And we walk to her tree. We are all like standing around it, holding hands. And then we click off our lights. And the whole ground is like glowing like straight Avatar. And I'm like, I'm just blown away. And I can feel the presence. Some people are having visions right there, and we're totally sober, by the way, during this. And so this tree Noyara teaches me, hey, Christ's teachings are my teachings. The Buddhist teachings are my teachings. And I'm like, Christ? I haven't healed my relationship with Christ yet because I was kind of bitter toward it.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was like, no, like, she healed me. And then that's when she told me, she gave me a vision. She said, hey, there's going to be a guy that comes. And when this guy comes, the next morning, oh no, she just told me the guy's going to come. So the guy comes. We're sitting in a ceremony and I don't have visions, but she's like, it's like a knowing. It's like knowing. She's like, that's the guy. And he was sitting right next to me. And he was like, she's like, in the morning, this dude is going to invite you to walk to my tree. And when he does, you're going to give him this and this. And then you're going to go to Colorado with him. I was living in Dallas, but we were in Peru. And I was like, okay, like I didn't tell him anything. I didn't make eye contact with him. I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, I might be tripping like this, The next morning we wake up and he's like, hey, do you want to walk to this tree? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Let me go grab a couple of things. And so I go grab the things that I was instructed. And yeah, I ended up going to move to Colorado. But in that position, a position opened up for me to serve at the community Peru. But she was like, it was like a divine like lineup that I had to go to Colorado.
Right.
So I just find that story very fascinating, and it just started coming through. I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious toward how much I've been talking.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I just want to say, like, I want a guru, right? Yeah. I want a teacher. I want somebody to dispel this. And I've searched and I've searched and I've searched, and what it's become is this buffet platter of, all right, well, I'll take a little bit of that, and I'll take a little bit of that.
This is
Ooh,
interesting.
you want me to never do ayahuasca ever again?
Right.
Sorry, I have a guru in that tradition. Like, I'm not like, so now I'm booted out of this tradition because because I'm not willing to give that up. And then I'm like, well, I still learned a lot, so I'm gonna put that. And it's like, so one, I come with gratitude because
Mhm.
these other traditions, the Europeans, the conquistadors, basically, I'm Mexican, but I have a lot of that bloodline in me still. The other, we conquered and pillaged, did a lot of crazy stuff. And yet, the Native Americans, they've welcomed me into their sweat lodge.
Mhm.
The Peruvians have welcomed me into their ceremonies. The Sikhs have welcomed me into the Gurdwaras. The Hare Krishnas have welcomed me. Shiva worshippers have welcomed me into Shiva temples. And it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
I would be so lost without the generosity and hospitality of these countries in these traditions that have allowed themselves, that have taught me, that have allowed me to learn. And I'll end it with this. At the same time that I want to give my whole beingness to a guru, to Noya now, I'm like feeling like I have to be an entrepreneur. This is my work. I have to serve this Western culture that I'm in. I have to.
Yeah.
I can't retreat from that calling. And so then it's like, well, then I got this inner guru that's dispelling darkness in me. And it's all very confusing. It's very mysterious. We're also transitioning into new ages.
Mhm.
We don't fully understand, but the yogis are like, yeah, we're in a new age. Like, things aren't the same as they used to be. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
So I end it with that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. So much to chew on. So much to digest.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and for everything you said, I can respond, but as always, practice of like, oh, I'm just gonna listen, open. There's a teacher who's within the Jewish tradition, and he talks about mainly the Kabbalah and what he's created called the Kaduma, the primordial ground of like the mystical Jewish teachings. And he's like, when we're listening, it should be like a 60-40, like 60% actually on your own body, what's happening in your own system, and 40% listening and perceiving to the other, opening, which is interesting, just came to me. Don't know why. I don't even think about that ever, actually. But
I so appreciate that, because as you're talking, I was embodying myself.
Right.
And when you were talking, it was almost like my body was like, it was like, ooh, I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that. And I want to touch on that. But then I don't cling to those things.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I just like, okay, those were the things. I remember those. And then I might not remember, but then when I start talking, then it's like, oh, like, so this is the guru thing that we were talking about. Then this is how it relates to the land. And then this is how it relates to being in the Western world. And yeah, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Something that feels imperative about this guru, whether the guru being actual physical person, whether it being an epitome of a deity or a god, or whether it being a plant. It's from my experience, they seemingly give me permission for my experience to deepen. Permission to like go further in and be like, oh yeah, first of all, I'm okay. Like I'm not off the batshit crazy. And that's also interesting what crazy is. But or really they're like, yeah, you are crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know? And so it gives you that for me, like that little push, like that support I was speaking to earlier, that you're okay, you're comfortable, it's okay. I'm like, oh, okay, I am okay. This is where I'm at. And then it gives me permission to like go into those places that I might not feel are okay to go into, so that the healing can take place. And they come in spurts, right? It's not like I'm with my guru 24/7. That's not how I don't feel. My life has gone, but I don't feel that's how the Western world and this new emerging whole planet is going to be in process and in relation with elders or with development. And I'll touch on that part in a minute. And because we're just taking from all these different traditions, like something that comes up is in the mystical Christianity traditions, and to say like this, some of the stuff we're talking about is far out compared to what we're taught, you know. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, we're both probably putting suppressors on.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to like somewhat integrate.
Yeah. Because like Christ, it's a massive trigger because most people have a traumatic experience from growing up within a Catholic church or being indoctrinated in some way or forced upon in some way.
Or they're a Christian and they're like, that's the only way.
Right.
Like saying with the indoctrination.
Right.
And then it's like, well, there's about like more than half of the world left.
Yes.
I don't even think religion anymore, Christianity.
Huh. Something is called the Cloud of Unknowing. And in the Cloud of Unknowing, you are left. You are left in this mist and you can't see anything. You can't see anything. You're surrounded in darkness or a cloud. And you have nothing but yourself, and you don't know, but you're searching. You're searching and you're yearning for God. You're like, yeah, please, where are you? I need my guru, or I need something to help me on this journey of like unfolding in my life. So I can learn from and grow as a human being and develop more love and open my love, you know, and then learn to develop it. And there are instances in the Cloud of Unknowing where the cloud just disappears and you're in that union with God. You're in that like emergence of like, oh, right there. And it's blissful. The sun is on you, the moon is on you, everything, the sky is around you. There's no more cloud. And then in the snap of a finger, boom, the cloud's back. And so it's this cycle of God revealing that nature to us and then hiding from that, hiding from us, so that we are left with even more yearning to search more deeply and more fully for that God, for God and that spirit. And within this mystical Christian, these certain traditions within the mystical Christianity, they talk about that's necessary. We need to not have a guru or God 24/7, because then that defeats the purpose of this existence. And it's a great teaching to be like, yeah, I'm in the cloud of I don't know, unknowing, and I'm confused, and I'm so lost, and I'm scared, and I'm vulnerable, and I don't know. And then in that dark moment, boom, there's a moment of expulsion, and oh, there it is. And that just gives you the little bit of juice and stamina to keep going, and faith to keep going. And that's what came up when, because we share a very similar reality of like, I'm lost too. And that's why I pull from this tradition and this tradition and this tradition. And it's still like, yeah. And I don't, the thought has been brewing with me lately of this contemplation of that seems to be an old structure of faith, of one's spiritual and emotional growth within a lot of things of, this is my teacher, this is my path, right? And there are still many people, many friends of mine who are like, yes, I am Buddhist, I am within the Tibetan Buddhist community, and this is it, this is the path, right? And that seem using the archetypes of like masculine, feminine, the masculine is more, from my understanding, from my experience, and also for intellectual understanding of reading, is of, it's more of that discernment of like, this is right and this is wrong. And that's it, like Jesus, that Christ figure goes out into the desert to meditate and fast, and he needs to know like, this is truth and this is not truth. It's black and white. Where the other side of that is the more feminine, is like, oh, actually there's a union to this. There's a union to all of this, even the black and white, they come together, the yin and yang in some respect. And with that, these systems, like these ancient traditions, were built and created in more of a masculine oriented patriarchal time. And so part of the shift that's going to happen, and I think that's already happening and is unfolding, is as we like realize the oppression and like dominance of this patriarch, and it shifts more into a balance and a matriarch, the swing is, in the spiritual context of what we're saying, the swing isn't like, this is my tradition. It's like, oh, I'm at a buffet and I'm going to take some of this, some of this, some of this, because that's more of like the matriarchal aspect of union of all these traditions. We need all of them to like give us a little diversity. We need this diversity. And with that, I've just been more gentle on myself and a little more easy. It's like, this search, you don't need to find this so rigorous search. Thank you. We don't need to find such a rigorous, I don't need to like push myself to be so harsh about finding one path. Like, it's okay to take from all these paths and still develop like and deepen into these practices. Because they are all beneficial in their own way. They all bear fruit. The mango tree isn't the mango tree. Like, it's the only fruit, No, I'm going to take a little bit from the rambutan, and I'm going to take a little bit from papaya, maybe a Fuji apple. Yeah. And while we're at it, maybe I'll take grapes and the vines, even that's not a tree, like it's fine. So anyways, I think it's cool to give ourselves the permission to dip our toes and lick our tongue within the different walls of traditions. And with that, as you so beautifully mentioned, is like much gratitude for all of these being accessible to us. That's extraordinary. We have the accessibility of all of them. It's really marvelous.
And it's new.
And it's new.
It's new. Like, we are the first humans ever,
Right.
at least in our history.
Right. And that's something to say about why it could have been like, this is my path, this is my teacher, because they didn't have Google.
There's no other way.
Right. Oh, so this is the way.
It's like, if you want it, you got to go get it. And
Yeah.
once you get it, there's no other options.
Yeah.
50 years ago, if you go to India for a guru, you're going to India for a guru.
Exactly.
When I went to India, I also had a ticket purchased to Peru.
Yeah.
You know, it's fascinating.
Yeah. It's funny. It's dawning on me now too that, Peru and India, places that have offered you so much fulfillment and guidance. And it's also the two places in my life that have all the world places, like, and it was in the opposite thing. It was Peru, then India. And it was so cool to see what those two worlds can what they've collided for us.
Yeah. And that's actually been the case for many of my, not many, but some of my close friends.
Sure.
Actually just one other friend.
Yeah.
That has specifically on that same tilt. And dropping in, I'm a very somatic individual. When I listen to music, I get goosebumps. When I listen to people, my body is very responsive to how somebody is talking. And when you were talking about the mother, the matriarch, the feminine aspect of just like having this as my guru versus like, I'm going to take a little bit of that. I'm going to take a little bit of that. Take a little bit of that. It is kind of feminine. It is very like, it's sensual. It's sexual in the best way ever.
Totally.
It's like, it's things that actually like men get frustrated about women about. Because men are like, why can't we just have this? And then women are like, I don't know. Like, and I'm speaking very broadly. I should be speaking masculine, feminine. But when you were talking about that, I started tearing up.
Mm.
And then as you kept talking about it, my body got goosebumps, right? And it's just like 60% in my body, 40% where you're at. And those numbers change as I'm listening to you. I upgraded our thing, and you said thank you, but I was really being present with you. Wow, I just had to click a couple buttons.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that for anybody. I'm conscious of that. Like, hey, I was like kind of doing a little something.
And also like I'm conscious of it because I'm like, I'm speaking, I'm watching you, and I know Deg. And so I know Deg gives me and offers me his full presence. And I can see him like doing something, and I'm like, there's that like speck of doubt, and I watch it and it comes up and it goes away. But there's a faith underneath. Like my heart's like, yeah, I know he's doing something beneficial and he's fully present. And yeah, it was completely necessary.
Yeah.
Like awareness.
Wow. Thank you. It's so good to talk about it too. It's so good to be like, hey, bro, I was doing something just now, but I was still, and you're like, I noticed you were doing something, and it's okay. And I'm like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is.
Because oftentimes, and otherwise, it's like it goes into a hidden structures, and it's like,
I
watched that, and and it's like, oh, he wasn't listening to me, or they weren't listening to me,
right? And you can't say anything because honestly, like, it's not our business,
right?
You know what I'm saying? We didn't come with the doctrine of like, okay, we not do any other activities. Well, like we didn't set those boundaries or those things. So, but it's so good.
Yeah, appropriation. Like, what is appropriate? That's not appropriate to be tending to multiple things. Like, and also, it doesn't get brought up because confrontation is not okay. It's like, no, like I can't confront you on my feelings, right? And it's so absurd. It's so absurd because otherwise, how do we learn and grow?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, have like 50,000 different branches that I wanted to travel the conversation. But the one branch was me and my partner. We've been dating for 2 years, and we've had a really beautiful relationship. And also, we've been through really rough times and times where we've gotten to know ourselves really deeply. And it was just really fascinating because being vulnerable with my emotions can be really impactful on her emotions. Almost to the point where it's like, I shouldn't even share my emotions out of consideration for her emotions. What do you do then? It's like, ooh, you know, hey, I'm actually having these feelings. And then what feelings are permanent? Nothing. And so when you bring up feelings, it's like we need to have a culture shift of like, hey, I'm feeling frustrated, but this isn't forever. Hey, I'm feeling like I need space. In this moment, I'm feeling like I need to get out of this relationship.
Yeah.
But, well, that's where the honing in and the refinement of communication comes in. But I really wanted to say was, we were having a really rough time, and we actually got my biological mother involved and her mother involved to help. I think I told you about this.
You talked about this.
Yeah. And it was funny because her mom, my biological mom, heavily validated Jenna. And that conversation that went first. And I was feeling like on guard. I was feeling like I had to defend my feelings.
Yeah.
Right. But that defending of my feelings was causing huge resistance in the conversation. And it was actually preventative of the conversation moving forward. But I knew that, but I also was like, no, but this is my authentic feeling, and I'm not going to back down from the feeling that I'm having. You know, no matter how uncomfortable y'all, I'm sorry. I'm not going to betray myself. Yeah. Then we hopped on the phone with her mom, and her mom was like, your feelings are totally valid. And it was like the whole thing just melted away. Like 3 months of like issues, fights, just her mom telling me, hey, your feelings are valid. I was like, what? I was able to have easy conversation. We've like healed drastically. And it was just that small touch of being like, it's okay for you to think that way.
The validity. It's interesting to ponder why. And I think we can intellectually come up with a lot of reasons why validity is so important and so like helpful to us. But it's to really feel it, it's physically it's allows you to come deeper into your full expression because you have the support of another.
Right. Nobody has resistance to you.
Right.
It's like, ooh, that might hurt, but I accept you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
And there's such a consciousness around am I going to be accepted if I share my feelings? Or not even that. Before that, it's I can't share my feelings because I'm not going to be accepted. And there's like a fear around it. It's like a deep, deep fear of, you have to shield, right? It's that fear. We both did the same action. It's like,
yeah, dude, it's a big one.
And in that action, it's like, whoa, already, like your body just tenses up. And I think that's a lot of why we have tension in our bodies, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Right.
But like we have this tension because like we have to constantly hold on and, you know, hold on, be strong. Like you have to, okay, hold on, be strong. It's like, whoa, no one says let go and relax. It's, you have to be tight because opening up would mean you have to open up to the tension, and that's not comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not at all comfortable.
It is so and almost confronting it is more uncomfortable than the uncomfortability itself with our culture. At least from my experience.
Yeah.
I've only lived in 2 states, majority of 1 state. I've traveled very little in the United States. I have a perception of the United States, but like, I don't really know the United States. Every
Right.
city I go to is a little different, you know, in some ways. I just want to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, this is from my, you know, I've never experienced that fully, except at Boulder and Thrive at that restaurant that we both worked at. Full freedom of expression and acceptance.
Yeah, because Corey like allows that. The foundation of the restaurant is
Exactly.
I don't have an answer. You're the answer, and that's why you're here.
Yeah.
It's enlightening just to work there because it's like,
it is.
Wait, there's no rules or really regulation. It's like,
yeah, where's the employee manual? You're like,
it's like, Corey, you're the boss, so should I do this? He's like, I don't know. What do you And I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
They're like, so when should I come into work? He's like, when do you want to come into work? And you're like, well, I'm available on these days. He's like, okay, cool. Well, yeah, it would be nice to have somebody on that day at night. And you're like, well, I can't work that day at night. He's like, okay, I'll be all right.
Right. And what's coming to me now is another unfolding revelation about Thrive, about this organism of a restaurant. It's like, and Corey's, he gives you full permission, 1, be yourself, and 2, he gives you your full autonomy.
He does. And that's actually really scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they make Corey the enemy because of that.
Yep.
Because they're doing things to themselves that actually Corey is allowing.
Right.
Where most jobs don't allow you, right? And so then you're like, F that job. And then you go to Thrive, and then you're like, you start kind of like, if you want to destroy yourself, you will destroy yourself.
Yeah. In many different ways, from like eating as much food as you want to like doing all sorts of stuff.
To just being mad that you're there.
Yeah.
And then he's like, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. And you're like, but I'm on the schedule. He's like, but I'd rather you not be here than be here and not want to be here.
Right. Because if you have
and then you have full autonomy, and then you're like, you choose to be there, but then you're pissed off, right? Because you're like, and then he's like, and then you're like, you have nobody to face, to be mad at, except yourself. And if somebody isn't willing to go that deep, then it's like, Corey, you're mean.
Blame, right? Yeah, it's so easy to blame. It's like, oh, he's the person because of blah, blah.
He's a terrible boss. He's a blah 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 blah. And it's interesting. And to say this, I'm not quoting anybody. I'm not even remotely thinking of anybody. It's just like a vibe.
Yes.
It's like everybody there is my family. Yeah. Everybody. And most of the things I'm saying are from because of me.
Yeah.
Actually, everything I'm relating to experience wise is me, because I'm like, why am I still working here? And I'm
Right.
like, oh, because I want to be here. And you're like, wait, do I want to be here? You know, it's just interesting.
It's a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny this has come up because over the past few days, I've fallen into a deeper appreciation for Corey, and I've had to take some time away from Thrive for a few reasons of my own, that for my own, right? My own reasons. And it's nothing to do with Thrive, even though at first it's like, oh, Thrive did this and this person, you know, it's like, no, it's all me. But
Yeah.
It's like that space is fully allowed to come through and happen. And it's beautiful because of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I will say that even Corey's own autonomy
Right.
has gotten in Corey's own way. The space that the entity of Thrive holds for Corey,
Yeah.
him opportunity to grow.
And then this goes into like Thrive is a conscious organism.
It is.
Right.
Like from experience, right? It is an entity that channeled through other being. And like Corey and Thrive can't really be separated, but they can be separated.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know how, like there is no Corey without Thrive, and there is no Thrive without Corey. But at the same time, like maybe there is now that Corey has birthed it. I don't know. It's like there is no me without my mom.
Yeah.
Because she's me. And at the same time, like I don't belong to my mom.
And then it's like, it's interesting. Who came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, did Thrive? Did Thrive? Yeah.
Did Thrive birth Corey to birth itself?
Right. And one of the first things Corey said to me when we were working, we were working. He's like, yeah, sometimes I just feel like it was one of those, you know, kind of your initiation into Thrive is like staying up working with Corey until 4 a.m. at Thrive on a Tuesday. And he said, yeah, you know, I feel like Thrive is an octopus and we're all its tentacles. And I was like, that's interesting. And then one day I was working and I really felt that. I felt that Thrive itself, the building, was like the bulb of the octopus. I don't know the name. And I was just like a tentacle doing the things for Thrive, but like joyfully. It's so interesting.
And that relates to, honestly, how I want to live my life. In that being a tentacle for the divine. And
thank you.
I do want to say that as working with Corey for 4 years or however long it was, Corey's not a perfect individual, but I trust his heart above everything. And so it's like, there might be issues, but like you stay in a relationship long enough with anybody, there's going to be possibly something, most likely something. I don't want to limit anything, but yeah. So that's another thing that people I think do, put Corey on a pedestal, and then he doesn't live up to their pedestal version of what they had for him. And then it gets messy. Yeah. But moving to tentacle octopus, and it kind of comes back to how we met and how we farthered our relationship.
You and I?
What's that? Yeah, you and I.
Yeah.
Because when I had first we met when we were reopening after COVID, and you had just swung through. And we were just like a quick saw, like.
Yeah, I was like, what is this place? Like, And you're like, you and Corey are like, yeah, here's a kombucha. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to Montana. See you later.
We're like, cool, if you ever want to, we both, I think we're like, if you ever want to like throw down here, you're more than welcome. You're like,
yeah.
that. And then you did. And then you got on the website. I was so
This is a year later after this kombucha meeting. And the next thing I know, yeah, you've moved away.
Yeah. You got on the website. And then we relaunched Thrive, and I wasn't on the website. And I was like, literally at the time, I was like running Thrive.
Yeah.
And then, and then I was leaving. I did leave. You got hired, and I came back. And right when I had come back, Krishna had revealed himself to me. And and then I was like telling you about it, and you're like, hey, we got a kirtan going on. And that's really where I feel like, our friendship solidified. And one thing that I've learned from that tradition of Hare Krishna, of following Krishna, is devotion. And like previously, my life was about enlightenment and about how do I become an enlightened being, and what being a Vaishnava, a devotee of Krishna, Vishnu, what that meant is this. And it's actually this letting go of enlightenment and being like, at the end of the day, I'm here to serve. If you want to bless me with like this enlightenment that you've blessed Buddha with, then like, awesome. But at the end of the day, my joy comes from serving you, because whether I'm enlightened or not, I'll still be serving you. And so through my service, my continual remembrance of that service, and maybe this is something that we can transition into, the goal. I'm very goal oriented, but like, the goal of my life, the goal of my purpose, my existence, is to be a service, to be a tentacle of the Godhead of the octopus, and to find the most joy in that, and to also serve myself as a human being. But that's also serving, to me, it's creative. It's like a creative, how do I serve? And, like, I do believe that we're created to create. We are made in God's image, and God is the creator. And so I feel like we're creating, but how do we turn the life that we're creating into creating back toward the creator that's creating us? And then it's like this continual positive giving feedback loop between you and the creator. And so that to me is like the essence of my life, to serve, to do the work of Krishna, Jesus, Noyadao, of Buddha of light. And I'm curious, like, do you have also that purpose? Because I just want to open the floor for that. Do you, what do you feel? Are you seeking a purpose? Do you feel like you have a purpose? There's also the path of, I'm nothing.
Right.
I'm letting it all unfold. Faith.
Well, thank you, first of all, for that beautiful sharing. I do want to commend you also for asking the first question of this talk tonight, because we get so excited and talking, and it's like there's so many questions within what I want to talk to you, but
which this is why we're good at this. This is like one reason why I think this platform for both of us is really cool, because I think people can relate to it. And I think that my soul is excited. I feel excitement.
Yes. Yes, I believe I do have a purpose here. There is a purpose for this entity of Jacob to carry out while he is consolidating this body. And a lot of that process is why I search for all these other traditions, right? Of what does each tradition have to offer me? Because I want to figure out, understand, which is more of the intellectual part of what the F am I doing here? I don't know if YouTube allows language like that. So I'm gonna halt. I want to answer your question from a feeling-based and instinctual reaction, and not reaction like I'm reacting, but my instinctual action is saying, yeah, hell yeah, yes, hell yeah, yes, heaven yes, or whatever you want to say, light yes. Of there is a service to be had and to be given, to embody so that I can give. And I don't know what that is. It's still unfolding. But and you might have to remind me of your question again. But devote, yeah, please actually let's rewind.
Yeah.
And can I hear your question again?
Yeah. To preface it, it was like, first, I'm looking for a guru, enlightenment. How do I transcend transcendence? And then through the teachings of something that I've added, the devotion, the Hare Krishnas, the Vaishnavas, there is a shift, which you got to witness. At least you might not have known that you were witnessing it, but for me, you were like that was the witnessing of a shift of now the purpose of my existence is to serve. And whether I'm enlightened or not, service is first. And it's almost a relief because now I've taken the pressure of enlightenment off of me and I can serve in every inhale and exhale. I can choose to turn toward God. And so with that overarching as a preface, I come to you almost to just give a platform for you to speak in the form of a question. It is, do you feel like you have a purpose? If so, what is that purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you have a goal for your spirituality?
Yeah, there's a lot there. Cool.
Yeah.
And maybe we should change the word to om, like instead of like No, I'm saying I do. I'm saying we all do. Yeah. It's like not but it's rather om.
Yeah. I like that. That's culture. That's culture, language.
When I was sitting on the bank of the Ganges in India, in Varanasi, sitting with some sadhus, smoking some hash and drinking chai, and just what do? We just sit. And every time, his name was Gardi Bharti. Every time the guy smoked so many cigarettes, and I'll get to your question, but it came up is
right, please.
He so many cigarettes, and I didn't smoke tobacco at the time, and but I'm with him and I'm sitting, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take a hand rolled cigarette. And the time he lights mine and his both at the same time, he hands me one. And just so context, like, this is a sadhu. A sadhu is a holy man. What is India considered a holy man, dressing in orange robes, right? And an aesthetic.
And is without a home.
Yes, living without a home, and who's devoted their life to, depending on the god or deity, but to divine in some respects, some aspect of the divine, right, for self-realization or enlightenment, and whatever that means. And And anyways, he would light both of our cigarettes. He'd hand me one. By the time I was done taking my first puff, he was done with his cigarette, like about to light another one. Anyways, just to give context on this character, every time he yawned, he was like, oh. And every time he sneezed, there was an om. There was a intention with every action, like every natural and automatic reaction that his body was doing without his control. He added a manual and conscious effort to add a spiritual essence to like the autonomic makeup of his organism, which is kind of wild.
That's epic.
It was epic. That it was a pretty cool like little portal in the consciousness world.
Yeah, I like that. Incorporate that a lot.
We got start small. See again, coming back to answer your question. And I guess it's my question too. So to answer both of our questions of what am I doing? What's this purpose? Is I don't fully know. And as someone once said to me, it's a sacred I don't know. It's not like, oh, I don't know. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. And that's okay. And I'm going to leave room for myself to not know so I can be open. I do feel there is service involved. And there is this idea that I've taken from spirituality that service just means to another human being. A lot of this modern spiritualism is taken from Buddhist context of like, have compassion. And you have compassion for another being. And like the Dalai Lama, well known, and I'm just going to use him as an example compared to other monks, is his teaching is compassion. And that compassion means your service to other people. And for me, eventually, I feel my service will be for other people on behalf of other people's own empowerment, for their own growth, which is kind of in turn my own growth, because when one part of the whole grows, we all grow. But at the moment, this person's purpose is not in direct service to other human beings. In very little ways it is, with some body work that I practice. But the service is, how can I listen most attentively to the divine? And what does that mean to do so? And for a while, Deg, as I began the spiritual things, it was like, yeah, enlightenment, I need to be enlightened without even knowing what that means. And it's coming from an ego-centered place, not in a negative way. It's just the ego wants enlightenment. And therefore it's like, then it's not really enlightenment, because there's something in it for the ego. As Osho talks about, he's like, we want freedom of the self, but enlightenment is freedom from the self, which is very subtle.
That is super subtle.
But yeah, we think this enlightenment is going to be us and we're going to be there. I am going to be there. And that's just not, that's not enlightenment then. So that's that's that topic. But to harness and reel back in to my purpose is, that concept of me wanting enlightenment, which I'm still working with every day, it didn't have a proper foundation. It doesn't have a proper foundation. And
wow,
it created a severance and a separation between my spiritual experience and my physical experience. into that they were different things, into that I was harnessing these wisdom traditions that we've been talking about and using them for my own good of spirituality to simplify, neglecting this human physical existence in my own beautiful body to reach and attain above and transcend into some enlightenment. And so, all to say, well, while that was happening, I was suffering physically on illnesses, shadow work that wasn't integrated, parts of me that I wasn't able to cope with, anger, all these things that I suppressed because this body is no, I need to transcend. And to come back once again to my purpose right now, you know, it's January 1st of this Western calendar, and my only thing that came to me yesterday, what do I want to, and this week, I was like, what do I want to work with is embodiment, is unifying my spiritual world that I've put over here in my human body, which I've put over here. Really, it's like this. Like I've put one up here and one down here, and actually embodying the two because there's no difference. So my purpose right now is in any way, shape, and form, like learning, observing, sitting, emptying, just coming into a place where I can realize that the silence that I crave or that God that I yearn for is right here. So I'm of service to my body, which is kind of strange because it goes against like, yeah. And not just the norms of the culture, like my own norms that I've lived upon.
Yeah. Who's to say what is of service and what isn't? And that is something that is really hard to actually integrate and accept in our society. If a child is acting what society says is inappropriate or whatever, that child in its innocence could be truly serving God.
Yes.
You know, and same thing with the transcended master who sits in a cave. Same thing with the Buddha who sits under a tree. It's like you're serving humanity through your essence,
Right.
through your beingness. And yeah, we can't put our limitations on what service is. It's a nice way to conceptualize it, though, because then we can open up that conception and be like, you know what? I'm serving humanity by breathing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm inhaling, I'm thinking of God. When I'm exhaling, I'm thinking of God. When I'm inhaling, I'm giving thanks. When I'm exhaling, I'm giving thanks.
Yes.
And yeah.
What
I want to use this topic, if you're willing, to transition into the topic that really inspired this YouTube video. And that was, I don't know, I forgot what the actual name was, but it's like it's like feeding. Do you know what I'm laying down?
Feeding the demon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you talk about it. It's up to you.
Can I name something real fast?
Yeah.
What just dawned on me through us slowing down for a moment is someone who has no idea, and like the vocabulary of spirituality is not in their language, which is a lot of people. And they're working their job, they're living with their families, they're doing their things, they're doing their life. And that concept of God or divine or service, like these aren't words. Spirituality and spirit, no, they've never heard of that take. They're still serving God by being a human being.
Preach.
So and that's radical, because then it begs the question of, these are made up concepts within a spiritual paradigm of service and doing the right thing in some capacities, because it's just something to contemplate, and it's a paradox. And I'm not saying this as a truth. I'm just saying it as a, that's interesting. That person knows nothing about what spirituality is or what God is or what anything deeper than just, oh, I'm eating my meal, I'm going to work. Like, they're doing their service.
They're doing this. A tyrannical government, a pandemic, dare I say?
Yeah, say it.
Even Hitler?
Yeah.
Somehow doing God's work?
Yes.
Somehow? It's weird. Because we can't separate God from its creation.
Right.
And like we talked about earlier, even Lucifer created by God.
This gets, well, now we're getting, yeah. And the other day I thought, okay, well, there's these two concepts of, one is God created this world, and the other is, no, there was a big bang and Earth was formed. But they kind of simultaneously work together, which is God, Lucifer, Lucifer's even God's creation, because what was before the Big Bang? That what was that essence before the Big Bang? What was that essence that created the Big Bang? And maybe biologically, Earth was created through a Big Bang series of chemistry and all these elements, but also those elements were birthed through God. And so this is a gateway into, if we so dare to enter the Lucifer meeting your demons, that world.
Yeah.
A thought occurred of, someone's watching and we're having fun. Like, it's like I've never sat and listened to two people talk for like 5 hours. 2 hours, sure. But so I just had that thought of like, okay, but also if we want to go into it, we're feeling it, we're going to go into it. But we could also pause, just naming what's possible.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Listen to somebody for 4 or 5 hours.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah. And also, somebody might click on our video and click to this moment right now.
Amen. And that's what's interesting about like that listening aspect of the spiritual experience of like, why am I going this way? Like, why are we keep talking? Maybe it's going to serve one person for one reason, or us, or whatever it is. And it's like kind of a mystery, and that beyond our knowing. And that's why it's a beautiful mystery.
Yeah. It keeps it fun, and it keeps, because now we're not doing this for anything except for itself. It's like creating something because there was a urge for it to be created. It's like a sandcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Creating a sandcastle, you knock it down. Nobody tries to keep a sandcastle. But why did you create the sandcastle? Because it was amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. This is like we get to record a making of a sandcastle, and I don't know. At some point the analogy breaks down, but
Totally. It's like these, like what the Gita says, the Bhagavad Gita, just because Krishna consciousness is present in our conversation. Of a big theme of many is no attachment to your result.
yeah,
Like you do it. But if you're wanting something from it, that it's going to create more suffering. So yes, I like the analogy of the sandcastle.
yeah.
So I would propose maybe you enter us into this realm, if that feels where your heart wants to go.
Yeah. It's 9:30 my time,
Yes.
8:30 your time. We started probably around 7:30ish. Going on 2 hours.
7:30 your time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hit on many different.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it maybe any other way. I do want to share, like, I don't really need to go down that pathway we were gonna go down.
Yes.
I'm just gonna invite everybody, even the viewers, to just take a breath.
Thank you. I've thought of that a few times, but didn't come out. Thank you.
Yeah. So inhale and exhale. Yeah, there's a part of me that's feeling like we're coming to the end of the conversation.
Yes.
I do want to share maybe some things that have a multifaceted intention behind them, in that I want to share something that we are choosing to put our attention and consciousness toward, and in order to serve ourselves. A simpler way of saying it is, what do we want to do? What are we choosing to do to grow into it? And if the answer is actually that I'm not trying to go, that's okay too. I do want to plant a seed for a future conversation and almost have a check-in. Hey, this is where you were. This is where I was. Where are we at now? A fun way to track and to have a little bit of continuity. And the second thing is, those were the two things. So planting a seed for the future to touch back on if we decide to do a future video. And two, something, intentions that we are choosing to follow through with now. I'm happy to go first, unless you want to.
Please go first.
Right now I'm going to school to be a chiropractor. And interestingly, I feel like I've received a vision of what I am to do in the world. And this vision has relatively been the same for five or 6, 7 years now. In some way or form, it's evolved. It's been an ongoing evolution for probably a total of 7 or 8 years. And it's continued to evolve and grow. And now it's led me to becoming a chiropractic doctor and serving through healing in that way. And I also wanted to go into politics, and I'm also very passionate about music. And I've kind of just have this so the name of my business will be called Tree Light. And Tree Light is actually a name I asked from the tree in the jungle that I aforementioned, Noyerao. I asked her for a spiritual name, and that's the name that she gave me, Tree Light, and spelled with Lyt. And my business is also called Tree Light. And I also have another name, Wolfgang Deg Kirtan. And I just want to share this because why not? Wolfgang is the path of the wolf. It's my middle name. It's my given middle name, and it's just the path of the wolf. And for me, I view wolves as individuals and also packs. They're both. And so I feel like very much I'm a part of a pack and also very much on my individual wolf pack. Deg is a servant, is a hospital. It actually means pot in Sikh. So it's serving food. It's the pot in which food is served out of. In Kirtan, Wolfgang Deg Kirtan is singing songs to God. So that's my spiritual name. That's the name. That's my prayer. If you call me Wolfgang Deg Kirtan or Deg Kirtan, the servant who sings. And then I have like this other spiritual name, right? Tree Light. This is that buffet that I'm talking about. But it's fun. It's like, this is what's handed to me. And I might look crazy to many people, and that's okay.
You look crazy to me, so perfect.
Hey, here we go. That's a compliment. So this vision, I'm not ready to share that vision. I kind of want to keep it in. This vision, though, in order for it to manifest, I have to step into this really disciplined being that is able to somewhat have mastery, not somewhat, pretty much have mastery over my immediate environment in order to attain those goals and a dream that I feel like has been given to me. And whether that dream has been given to me or if I created it, I don't know. But I really want to take action steps to make it there. And a big part of that, I feel and I know, is having a morning sadhana, having a morning routine. And I shared this with you earlier. I, for 2 or 3 years, have been trying to wake up and have a morning practice. And I've gotten to the point where I've stabilized having a daily practice, but I've never been able to stabilize it in the morning. And I'm a very free flow person. I don't have to do the same thing every morning, but I really want to implant that sadhana, have a place where I approach the divine in reverence. A time in my day where things are holy, where I show up holy, whether I like it or not, whether I'm feeling great or not. I show up with that reverence, with that holiness, with that sacredness, with that servitude, and just honor that. So that's really what I'm trying to anchor in this year. So may it be so.
May it be so.
There's a million other things, But all of it comes back to that. Because in that time, I can set my intentions, I can tap in, I can figure out, I can set intentions every single day with that as my basis, as my foundation. So that's where I'm at. And if we, whether we check in through Skype or through Zoom or through a phone call, as brothers, sharpening each other, as I'm sharing this with you, I'm not needing accountability, but when I tell my brother that I'm going to do something, I want him to believe it.
Yeah.
So that's my word. And through that word, I want that word to carry meaning, because when my word carries meaning, then God, the universe, takes my word seriously. And when the universe takes my word seriously, then I can speak things into creation. And so when I bless somebody, they are blessed. Love, when I forgive, when I speak, it carries potency. So that's why I'm telling you this, because it's not in vain. It's not, oh, I hope. I'm saying this as a prayer. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it my best.
Yeah.
And word as my bond type thing. And these are ways that I'm learning to integrate into this physical realm. So that's been a big part. Man, I feel like I could talk for 7 more hours with you. Because even on that one conversation alone, I'm sure you heard it in my voice. I had to stop myself from continually talking about something I wanted to continue to talk about. And it's because there's space. You offer that space for me, a resonance with me that I have permission to explore, even if it's off the wall, there's space. And so, yeah, I think we offer that to each other.
Yes, very much so. Honoring you and your words and your speech. I admire your courage, truly your courage to speak, this is what I want. It's powerful. It's kind of scary for me. Oh, shit. But
intense person, bro. I'm an intense personality, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Kind of scary, bro.
I'm like, dude, is this guy gonna know what he's gonna say? What is gonna happen? I'm not even thinking about what I'm gonna say. I'm like, oh, yeah.
That's the beautiful thing. I don't. It just comes out.
Totally.
Woo!
Yeah. I appreciate that. Your courage, as I said, I do. Do you mind if I speak one thing to what you offered?
Please.
I feel the spirit and the divine God, the language you want to use to speak it forth, is that force wants us to work for what we want. Something that I'm uncovering, and which isn't part of my intention, is to come out of the victimhood of, now I'm entering into my intention, but it's kind of answering yours, responding to yours, sharing with yours, is coming out of, and I use the word victim as I have no power in the situation. I'm just a victim, right? I don't have control. Coming out of the victimhood of my spiritual experience to the fact of, oh no, I am a human being, and I have in this body, and I have power within this body of what I want, of where I want to go, of what I want to further develop and grow into, and what that full human being looks like, and how my love opens. I have that. It's not just, what do I do? Where do I go? I pray. Prayer is a necessary part. but I pray for those opportunities to come forth from which that I want. So I want something, and so I pray for opportunities to arise. I pray for my eyes to open to those opportunities so that I may take them. But all this to say, a big part of my intention right now is yes, this is what I want. This is what my body wants. This is what my heart wants. And saying that and stating that and discerning that and having the discernment to say yes or to say no. And that's part of my intention for now. And what kind of leads into your sharing is, with that process, I don't just say my intention with an expectation that it's going to happen. Just like you don't have all these things that you have to work for and they're just going to happen. Hence you have to work for them. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I believe that motion and that energy of working for that thing, whatever it is, working on behalf of that thing manifesting, is like source. God wants us to work for it. God doesn't just want to give it to us. And that in the spiritual experience, like, gives us the autonomy to be our own human being, like be this spiritual being. And I say this now, I say this as there's a line in the book, the famous text, The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva. Shantideva begins by saying something along the lines of, and God bless me and all the deities bless me for quoting this text. I'm like, oh my God. Oof. I can feel like the Dharma energy around the Buddhism be like, oh, okay. Yeah,
we're bringing it out. Yeah.
Shantideva says, I speak this not to teach it. I speak this so that I can better know it myself. So that's what my process is, just to share. And I find that line so beautiful.
Yes. That's why we teach.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we talk. And that's why we're sharing. So part my intention, I commend you on your journey of discipline. And I support you on your journey of, yes, I want an asana practice, or I want this practice in the morning. I want that holy sacred space for this hour. And I'm going to work my ass off in chiropractic school and studying and politics to get to that place of fulfilling my vision, your vision. So as you know, but I can't say enough, you have my heart's full support.
Same to you, brother. You continually inspire me, and I'm so appreciative for your presence in my life. And regardless of how much energy you put into this relationship, your service to my life, you serve me, and hopefully the same is true. We're serving each other, and it's really unique for me. So thank you. There's not a lot of people I can call and talk like this, and just be excited to just call and be like, let's just see. Yes. Let's build a sandcastle together and see what it looks like.
Totally.
And with the lightness of a sandcastle too, that our conversations, sandcastles can get as intricate as they want to and as detailed, but the next time we join a conversation, regardless of if we refer to this, it's this lightness that is brought that I appreciate. And so with that, thank you. Thank you for what you bring to the table as a human being, as a spirit, as an entity. I'm just constantly blown away by your transmissions. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank both of us.
Yeah.
And also thank whoever is listening.
Yeah.
Made it this far.
You.
Right? Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to two people.
Yeah.
Two beings talk about themselves and the planet and things.
And where we're at. Yeah. If you have questions, please ask.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. You want this conversation to keep going, please.
Yeah. If you want a topic, let us know.
Yeah. Let's just see where this goes. And yeah. Beautiful.
And really quickly, the word, we entered with aho. And it might be an unfamiliar term for some people. So just to, I can share a little light. I'd like you to share a little light so we can, the little that I know, being a non-Native American, ancestors, the Jewish world, is aho is a term to say like all of my relations and all your relations, like I see all of your relations, and I acknowledge all of your relations and everything that you are, everything you bring, seen and unseen. And I'm kind of adding on, so if you want to add anything to.
No, it's beautiful. All my relations, because everything is our relation.
Yes.
Everything. None of us are separated from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. May all beings be blessed. May all beings find peace. May all beings experience joy, love. May all beings find themselves. And where they find themselves, may they have acceptance and love and gratitude. And may we change this planet. May we change this world. May we change in the best way ever, in whatever way needs to be changed. May we all serve in the best capacity that we can. Light to all, love to all, peace to all.
Many blessings. Many blessings.
Yeah.
Bow out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Oh, my cat's coming. My cat's coming to bow out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Luna approved.
It's Luna approved. Luna stamped. Okay, brother.